And this is your backyard with that lovely water feature I mentioned. And great schools, Michigan's top 10%. And the job market? Manufacturing, healthcare, creative industries. And Coastal Living magazine calls Grand Haven the happiest seaside town in America.
We'll take it.
Grand Haven. Come to play, you'll want to stay.
And these heated floors are perfect for year-round dining and shopping. Oh, and this is your backyard.
Wow, from the office to the slopes in no time.
And the job market is booming.
I'm actually retiring.
Well, Condé Nast calls Grand Haven one of the best places in the world to retire. Well, we'll take it.
Grand Haven. Come to play, you'll want to stay.
All right, welcome everybody to the Allure of the Lakeshore during COVID-19 webinar. Today with me, my name is Hollie Blagg. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the Small Business Development Center, and I have 4 wonderful individuals with me today to talk about the Lakeshore, especially during these challenging times. So to start out, I'd like the team to introduce themselves, all 4 of our panelists. They're going to share a little bit about themselves, who they're with, and what their purpose is, and then we'll get started with some questions about what they've been up to the past 6 months. So Dale, why don't you start us out with an introduction?
Yeah, well, thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here. Being a Z, I'm used to being at the end, but today I'm up first. How unique is that? Thank you. My name is Dale Zahn. I am the CEO for the West Michigan Lakeshore Association of Realtors. We are an association, a trade association, member-driven, that provides programs and services to realtors in primarily 3 counties along the Lakeshore, Muskegon, Ottawa, and Allegan counties, with certainly some from neighboring counties as well. But realtors in the region are members of our association. They get their programs, their education, their multiple listing service, their public relations, their political involvement from us as the association. So that's what we do. We've been around for 20 years. Organized real estate's been around since 1908. I was not a part of it then. And the association that I am heading up was founded 20 years ago. This is our 20th year anniversary, 20th year in 2020, and nobody anticipated going in that we would be in a year like we are in, which certainly has been a little bit normal, shall we say. It's been strange, it's been different, it's been challenging. So the purpose is program services. Yes, we interface with the public to a degree, but primarily it's a membership organization.
Great. Thank you so much, Dale, for joining us today. Tim, what about you?
Thank you. I appreciate you having me. So my name's Tim Wiseman. I'm the head of talent acquisition for Shape Corporation here in Grand Haven. We are it's called a Tier 1 automotive suppliers. We take our product, we send it directly to GM, Ford, Chrysler, Toyota, Honda, pretty much everybody. Based out of Grand Haven, we're about 2,000 employees in the United States, another 2,000 globally on top of that as well. Really what our why is and what we focus around is we both design the product, we design the manufacturing process, and we also manufacture all of our own products. We really consider ourselves thinkers, believers, and doers. We've always challenged ourselves to do things and challenge the norm. Initially, they told us that you can't bend steel, and we told them, watch us, and we did it, and then we started making our own bumpers. So that's really where we've made our mark. That's where we continue to make our mark, is really being innovative in an industry that is constantly changing and constantly adapting.
Exciting. Can't wait to hear more about that. Thank you, Tim. All right, Susie, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hi, I'm Susie Woodward, and I am the newbie here. I feel a little surrounded by greatness, but I am a brand new store owner on Washington Avenue in Grand Haven, Michigan. I recently relocated with my husband and retired, but decided that there was another store in me. And so really excited to be a part of the downtown, and I have 3 children, and when we're all together, there's 15 of us, and we relocated for that reason, for family. And my reason for doing what I do really is to impact my community, the people around me, and I've had some really great experience doing that in another location in Chester, Connecticut. And the name of my store is Lark, and again, it's on Washington Avenue, and I'm very honored to be here with all of you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie. And I'm really interested in hearing more about the whole shift in movement during the middle of the COVID crisis and how that kind of worked out for you and your new organization and your new company. So we'll talk more about that. Last but not least, Joy from our chamber. Can you introduce yourself?
Certainly. Thank you so much for hosting us today, Holly. I'm just really excited to be part of the panel. I'm Joy Gaasch. I'm president of the Chamber of Commerce, Grand Haven, Spring Lake, Ferrysburg. And we are a multi-discipline Chamber of Commerce. We also do economic development for our community. But because of our location, we're pretty much the spot where everybody stops, either when they come to the community or when they want some information about something. We do what we do, and we've been doing it since 1899. So the Chamber has a long history in our community. And we do it because we are so proud of Northwest Ottawa County and so proud of the businesses that are members of the Chamber, as well as those that aren't, that really make this community such a vibrant, attractive place to live, work, play, and learn.
Thank you, Joy, and welcome all 4 of you. Again, I thank you so much for taking time out of your day to share with us some of your experiences that you've been seeing over the past 6 months. And what a diverse crowd that we have today. What's exciting about our panelists is that they each come from a very unique perspective, both in their business and communities, but as well as what they've gone through in the past 6 months. So let's dig in, and we'll start out with some questions. As a reminder to the audience, if you want to submit a question, there is a button for Q&A at the bottom of your screen. Feel free to click on that and then post your question in the chat, and we'll be monitoring that as we go through this webinar. All right, so just to start out with, this is probably a big loaded question for you all, but really, how has the Lakeshore changed in your eyes due to COVID? Like, if you could just pick out 1 or 2 things, what are the big changes that you're seeing today that didn't exist maybe 6 months ago? And Dale, would you want to start out with that question?
Well, yeah, and it's not really real estate related, but the big change is people. Wherever you go, what do you see? Masks, social distancing. I mean, that's the thing that comes immediately to mind, that wasn't the way it was prior to the middle of March.
Yeah, and I think even those elements of how we greet people, the resistance almost to kind of putting your hand out and shaking someone's hand or giving them a hug, we're all being cognizant of that space and the distance in between, and how we kind of even greet ourselves, when we're bumping into each other in the streets or in the road. So,
well, it's interesting that you bring that up, Holly. I had a guest in here this morning, just about an hour and a half ago, and different people approach this social distancing and the masks very differently and very passionately, depending on their perspective. And the individual that came in this morning, it was evident from the get-go that there was a bit of skittishness there. He walked in properly with his mask on, saw me, and we're old friends. I mean, we've known each other for years, but we haven't seen each other in a few years. And it was like, don't get too close. And it was reach out and do the air handshake or do the elbow thing. So
Absolutely. I think that's interesting. This is actually becoming like more of a common handshake, but what we'll have to tell our children when they grow, get older, right? I always laugh about that because they're like, well, what are they doing, Mom? And I'm like, it's just the safest way to be right now. So what about you, Tim? Anything that you've noticed as one major change that you've noticed since COVID hit?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it comes down to flexibility and what you're doing and being adaptive and how quickly we are required to change. And from the sense of how we work, where we work, what we're working on, and all the way into schooling and how are you teaching your children? How are your children being taught? And all of those things. I think it's really the biggest piece is being adaptive and making sure that we as an organization and we as a community are adaptive to those changes.
Mm-hmm. Are you maybe finding yourself where you like, hey, we got to do this change, we got to make this change, and you know, it might have taken you a couple years or lots of conversations, and then COVID hit and it was like, boom, next week we got to implement this, whatever it may be.
Yeah, no, I can't tell you how many meetings and changes we've done since the start of this that are completely different than our organization has ever been in. And seeing the way that our operating, and in all honesty, a lot of efficiencies that it's created, and an opportunity. It's, I heard a saying is it's always, whatever happens to you, see what you can do to make it the best thing that's ever happened to you. Mm-hmm. And really, that's, I try to take a look at this lens is how can I make COVID the best thing that's ever happened to me? Mm-hmm. And it's really, what are you doing to change that perspective and change it and see what we can do to get a positive out of this and change it so that we're working towards, all right, now we know we can work virtually. We did that, but we didn't do that before. And are those functions, and can we be as effective and finding ways that we can be more effective in a lot of ways, through cost savings, through other things that maybe we were doing that we didn't know how to, and we had to figure out how to do it, or there was no option. So it was a change that you had to adapt to, and you had to adapt to quickly in order to meet the needs of business.
Absolutely. And it'll be interesting later on, we're going to learn a little bit more about what Shape Corp is doing as relates to that creativity and innovation and to support flexibility and other areas of the changes that we're experiencing. So thank you, Tim. So Susie, what about you? You have a very interesting story. And so you could, I don't know if you want to answer it from the lens of Connecticut or from Michigan, because you kind of played in both of those states during this time.
Yeah, I did. I think from Michigan, actually, because I think it's important to understand that the allure that I feel coming back to my home, I was born and raised in Muskegon, and I shopped in this area my whole life. And now my husband and I have relocated to Spring Lake, Michigan. But I don't think the allure has gone away, which I think is an important thing to say. The thing that I'm seeing in my customers, I guess, and in my store are that the people, as Dale said, you know, it's like they all need to take a position. And so you get to hear a lot about the position that people are in and whether or not they agree or disagree, and still trying to keep your store just a vibrant, wonderful place to be, and just not really kind of want to enter into all the opinions and feelings, but yet to still be there for people. I think that the way that we've done business has changed in that you want people to feel cared for and safe in your space, you know, kind of boots on the ground, am I safe here? And then also to, you know, the way you order product, are they going to want to be, you know, trying on clothes, or are they going to be more interested in your gift items, and just trying to figure that all out. But the changes I see are very much on more of a tangible level, where the people and that we serve are, and how we can continue to be, you know, alluring, so to speak, in all of that. So
that's wonderful. I'm going to learn a little bit more about the creativity that Susie's doing in her organization and within our company to kind of keep people coming in and make them feel safe during this time. Joy, what about you? What is that big thing that's different now that wasn't really there 6 months ago?
You know, I've been pondering. It's kind of nice to go last. I kind of like that. I've been pondering it because I have some, I mean, from an organizational standpoint, COVID's hit us pretty hard. Just because we run events, we do the Grand Haven Art Festival, the craft fair, we run the farmers market, we do, have done the dance sculpture contest. The Jingle Bell Parade is going to be coming up. What are we going to do with that? But those events that have been part of the cornerstone of what we do, we were not able to do them. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of been an interesting, from the standpoint organizationally, it's been really interesting that, you know, we've got to replace that revenue somehow. We've got to be, we've got to think differently about how we do things. The decision that I make today about something may not be the same decision that I have to make tomorrow because something's changed in between. the time that I made the decision and when we're going to implement it. So, you know, that's, I think, being quick to really respond and be able to change, which, you know, sometimes we're change adverse. So that's kind of been a good thing because we've learned a number of things from it. From a community perspective, even though everybody has different opinions, one of the things that I've noticed this summer, because usually summers in Grand Haven are crazy. I mean, there's a lot of guests, there's a lot of family reunions, and there's weddings, and there's all kinds of things going on. It was a little quieter this year. Not totally quiet, but it was a little quieter. But what I really noticed is families doing things together, people out bike riding, people kayaking, people doing things more as family units or as close friends going out and doing things. And so, you know, I think it's human nature to want to kind of spend time with folks, and previous summers, it's been so busy, sometimes you don't do that. So I think we've all kind of had a recognition of what an amazing community we live in, and why we live here. And it just makes you really thankful that we are situated where we are, and that people are still coming here, people are spending time here. Our manufacturing plants are manufacturing. Our economy, though not where we totally like it, is still functioning better than a lot of other places.
Well, that leads me into this next question, when specific for Joy and Dale, around people and businesses that are coming to the Lakeshore and reaching out. What, you know, is it different type of groups that are coming in? Are we attracting a different base of people or businesses? Is that slowing down? Is that speeding up? Like, what have you noticed around businesses and people coming in? I mean, we know Susie did, right? She came in during COVID from Connecticut, but I've heard a lot that a lot of different type of organizations are kind of tapping back into the Lakeshore and researching and looking into this space. And what would be those reasons? Like, why would they be looking at the Lakeshore?
Well, I think whether it's a business or it's individual families, there are several reasons to look at the Lakeshore. And that's why you're titled The Allure of the Lakeshore. You know, what is the allure? Well, the number one allure, and I'm from out of the area myself. I've been here 20 years. Prior to that, I mean, I'm a Chicago guy. I mean, I'm a Chicago Cubs guy who is really hurt right now because of the way they're playing. But that's a whole other story. The reality is people are allured to West Michigan Lakeshore for a number of reasons. Water. When I first got here, I heard this all the time. Water. There's water everywhere. People like that. And whether they're boaters or not, they like that. I mean, we don't have a boat. Our lifestyle is not particularly conducive to it. We like to go and take a cruise on the ocean, but we're not boaters here. But that's a big part of it. Water is attractive. Fishermen, water sports, on the beach, sit out there, go swimming, do a suntan, whatever. So the allure is multifaceted, and it actually goes to one of the last questions I know that you had given us that you might ask, but what are some of the special things about the Lakeshore? And it's not just water, it's a quality of life. It's taken, you know, I've been here 20 years now, and I can tell you there's a quality of life here that is unlike others. There is recreation, there is fine dining, there is sports, whether it's semi-pro or professional or just the kids on a local sandlot playing ball. And there's something that is really taken, my opinion. And this is one, some would think a real estate organization and a CEO would say this, and it has to do with taxes. Nobody likes paying taxes. I don't know too many people that say, raise my taxes. I love paying my tax bill. Most people will take a contrary position. Having been from the Chicago area, having been a part of the National Association of Realtors leadership on the national level for years, having spent 9 years in Iowa, the taxes for real estate that are paid in West Michigan are really, really attractive. And people that haven't been out of the area need to be told that and reminded of that. And I just share with you, in the early days of WMLAR, that's our association's acronym, West Michigan Lakeshore Association of Realtors. In the early days, and Joy might remember this, or people that were around at that time, there were 4 referendums to go to the voters for having to do with schools in Grand Haven. And our association endorsed in the newspapers, on the radio, all 4 of those ballot initiatives. We had some of our own realtor members saying, "Are you out of your mind? Is that what the new association is all about? You're going to endorse raising taxes?" We said, look, first of all, the taxes historically in relation to other places are very affordable. Make no mistake about that. And as the schools go, because those were school referendums, as the schools go, so goes your community. And we thought that was very important. So we supported and endorsed 4. 2 of them passed, 2 of them did not. I'll end with this note. I have a son, a grown son, and his wife and family that lives across the lake and a little bit to the south. He is in the northern suburbs of Chicago, almost in Wisconsin. He has a home over there for his family that is priced about $50,000 less than mine in West Michigan. His taxes are $8,000 a year. Mine are $2,200. I rest my.
Well, you know what, Dale, I am born and raised in New York and lived out in California, lived other places too, and I can say living in the Lakeshore it's very economical, and this site is absolutely beautiful. So taxes are important when we're talking about bringing people into our community and building it up. Absolutely. And what about you, Joy? Because I mean, you get a different perspective from businesses, right? And you see a different element.
Well, yeah, to some degree. I mean, certainly taxes are an important issue, particularly when you're looking at business. And you know, Michigan's tax structure sometimes for business is a bit of a challenge. Chambers of commerce across the state work very diligently to try and be pro-business and not support higher taxes for businesses. But, you know, I think from the standpoint of whether you're a resident, whether you're a senior, no matter who you are, part of the draw is our location.
Yeah.
We are in the heart of what was once called the Golden Triangle on the west coast of Michigan. We're the center of it. You know, we have access to anything and everything within 45 minutes. And, you know, if you're from New York or Chicago, 45 minutes is nothing. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we have professional sports, we have everything, but we also have quality schools in our community that people with parents are they aren't going to move someplace if there aren't quality schools. And we have 2 of the best school systems in Northwest Ottawa County with Grand Haven Area Public Schools and Spring Lake District Schools. They are creative, they're innovative. And when you think about what manufacturing is looking for today, or any kind of technology company, it's communities that have schools that are strong in STEM. Mm-hmm. And both of our school systems excel in STEM. Ottawa County has the best park system in the world. I'm amazed at how many folks that are inquiring about moving to our community want to know about what type of outdoor activities that are free. You know, the list goes on and on about what makes our community attractive. But, you know, it's really about the people too that live here. And Tim, you know, from the standpoint of looking at why people come, Tim deals with that every single day. And, you know, it's been interesting this summer how many people that have stopped here are looking at relocating. Now that people can work remotely, they can work anywhere. Yeah. So it's, you know, it's just kind of exciting. There are folks that like Suzie that have started a new business. There's a couple new breweries that have popped up. There's some changes in some restaurants downtown that are really exciting. So there's a lot of dynamics going on in the midst of a time when a lot of other businesses are contracting. we seem to be attracting.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And one note real quick, Joy, before we talk with Tim about companies that are attracting, I do think a special note is on the parks and is on the outdoor activities, because during the lockdown, I know that was really challenging for a lot of people. And to be able to go out and take a hike and take a walk with your family when other things were closed really gave everybody a sense of the beauty that we have here on the Lakeshore. But let's talk a little bit more about attracting people to the Lakeshore, maybe through some, from a business perspective. And Tim, your story is really interesting because, as Joy mentioned, other businesses are contracting, and we've seen that obviously through the course of, shutdowns and so forth. But you guys have come out of the shutdown with a very different need than what you originally anticipated. So can you tell us a little bit about your story and what you're seeing today at Shape Corp?
Sure. So Shape Corp has always prided itself on being very stable, not being an up and down. We hate laying off people. That's not I think in the organization's 46 years, I think there's been maybe one or two that we've ever done. And that kind of comes from our family ownership, being tied to the community and really being a part of the community. And that's really what we've always wanted to be. With that, we went into the pandemic in very strong shape. We obviously, nobody foresaw it coming. When it hit, it hit us, and it hit us hard. And we through everybody else, we shut down for a couple months. And our full intention is that we were in a good position to be able to come back. And we thought we would get there. We thought we would ramp up slowly. So we figured we'd probably be 60, 70, 80% business and kind of ramp back into that business. That has not been what we have seen. To the quite contrary, we have come back, if not pre-pandemic numbers, beyond pandemic numbers. So our orders and we are stronger and more business, and we are in the amount of business we're doing, the amount of openings we have, the amount of growth that we're doing. Is surpassing what we both expected and what we were doing before the pandemic. So it's been very, very interesting to see, very good to see. There's some pains that come along with that, we're struggling and working through. But it's been a very good thing for our organization to see how well and how we're responding to that, and how good shape is in. Not to play on the words, but we're in good shape. So it's a very positive thing to see, both for the community and for us as an organization.
That's wonderful. And you know what, Tim, if anybody wanted to take a look at your organization and see kind of what openings that you do have, do you suggest they go to your website?
Yeah, it's our website's got all of our listings posted, both locally and globally, and we do offer opportunity to help with relocation if you need to. But it's shapecorp.com/careers, and we have, I think, about 160 openings currently right now. So if anybody knows anybody looking for a job, we have them, full-time, part-time. We will look at folks in all different levels, in all different ways.
Absolutely. And I can say that Tim is very open to receiving referrals and recommendations, because I've already thrown one his way. So
bring them on. I'll take them all. Who needs a job? I got them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's just fascinating, because a lot right now, I think we focused on, where maybe there's that loss or the hurt, or the organizations are going through some of these growing pains. And we have an organization right in the Lakeshore that is growing dramatically, needs, people who are invested and passionate. And I think that's wonderful to have that kind of story to tell. I want to pivot a little bit to talk about creativity and innovation as we talk about, running a company, working within an organization during COVID. And I got the chance to talk with Suzie last week, and we had a great dialogue around the innovation that she's doing within her store in order to make people feel comfortable coming in order to be open. Let's face it, during COVID, we all had to be creative in coming out to keep people safe and to make sure that we can still run our businesses and exercise our craft, the thing that we're super passionate about. And Susie's been able to do this in a very meaningful way. So Suzie, I was hoping you could tell us your story, one, about opening a business in the middle of the crisis, and two, how you've helped be creative in opening your store so that people feel welcome to come in and feel safe to do so.
Yeah. Well, interestingly, my husband and I relocated here, but not on purpose. I mean, we did because we purchased a home and all of that, but the transition was going to be a much gentler thing in our minds and in our expectation. And we would have an opportunity to communicate that to people that we really love and care about. As a result of COVID, I went to a trade show in Atlanta in March, and I came here for a visit into our new home, and my husband was doing some work on the house, and we had already rented a space on Washington at 202 Washington Avenue, and then everything just went kind of shut down, and I had a choice to leave on, you know, for my next trade show or stay. And I made the decision to stay, and I'm glad I did because it would have been canceled by the time I got there, but we never left. So from that point on, we had no intention of that being our move-in date, but it became that. And so the work that was being done on the store continued. We decided to have our furniture delivered here. Anyway, long story short, we did eventually have the opportunity to open at the end of May, like all other retail spaces. And during that time, though, it was a very kind of unsettling time, because like, are people going to want to try on clothing? Are they going to want to come in? What can I do to just allow them to recognize that my safety is all in place? And so we had the opportunity to think about that. So the ways that I've kind of regrouped and changed the way I do things is to have hand sanitizer at the door, of course, to let them know it's there for their convenience. If they haven't used it for a while, we'd appreciate it. And that they're all masked, of course. And sometimes you have to remind people because they go outside, they take it off. But everybody's been pretty cooperative and very gracious about it. There's some that aren't, and you just have to let that go. Especially as a new store, you're going, but we want you to come in, you know. But there's just like, if you want a mask, I'm not, you know, coming in. So we also sanitize dressing rooms between every customer. We sanitize the credit card machine between every customer. We're, of course, constantly sanitizing our own hands, but we also put in a hand washing station. So interestingly, we had a drinking fountain in the store that I knew didn't really fit in with my look of a boutique, ladies' boutique. So my husband, being very creative, said, what about a hand washing station? And so we went and got an antique sink counter thing. It's gorgeous. It's made out of leather with real brass and all of that. And we actually have individual towels, and people do take advantage of that. We put a sign on it, help yourself. And so I think that those things have really made people feel comfortable. Sometimes the message as they're coming in doesn't feel very welcoming, but they hear welcome to Lark on every turn. And then we say, hand sanitizer, masks, you know, so just having that message and having them recognize that really we see that as a responsibility. It truly is, that we're doing our part. We're taking our temperatures every single day, twice a day, or journaling that so that we have that if we need it. And so those kinds of things being put in place, and we get thank yous a lot for that.
That's wonderful. Yeah. So we do have our first question from the audience. I'm going to read it out, and then if whoever wants to kind of go first, raise your hand and we'll just go in order. So the question is, along with our Lakeshore beauty, business growth, and employment opportunities, the diversity of the people who live in our communities is magnificent. What should organizations, businesses communicate to attract different demographics to our lovely communities?
Well, I think that we do. Okay, so first of all, I'll say we do. I think for my area on the street, there's just the people of West Michigan, as everybody has already mentioned, or a few of you have already mentioned, the people of West Michigan is the way their personalities, their ways of helping. It's funny, when I was in Connecticut, many times people would say, I can tell you're not from around here. And there was just sort of, you know, I kind of will joke with people, if you ask for directions anywhere else, they'll give you directions. Of course, we don't ask for directions anymore because we all have our technology, but if you ask in Michigan for directions, they'll get in their car and drive you there. And I think that the people that we rub shoulders with every single day are an asset in Western Michigan that just, I think sometimes we need to pay more attention to, because it is a gift to this community. And I think just the very personalities and everything that everybody is does welcome a very diverse population.
Right. Thank you, Susie. Now, Dale, I saw you raise your hand. Did you have a feedback on this one?
Yeah, I was waiting to see who was going to chime in first because I just didn't want to. But that's okay. I think it starts with a conversation. And it's interesting that, and I really appreciate the question from the member of the audience, because it goes to a conversation I had 2 hours ago in my office with a person of color. And it starts with a conversation. And a lot of people are uncomfortable having those conversations. And I think that's what we need to do, is have a conversation. In different parts of the country, it's been done a lot more than in West Michigan. Now, again, I'm a transplant, although I consider myself, this is home. I've been here 20 years now. But I do come from another area. And, you know, when I say I come from the Chicago area, we all know what the Chicago area is demographically and so forth. Iowa was a whole different story. West Michigan is a different story. And it's not just black and white. The sacred cow, as you get particularly into Holland. It's Dutch and non-Dutch. I mean, that's just laying it out there. When my wife and I went to I'm not going to tell you which organization it was, but went to a dinner in Holland shortly after we moved to Michigan, and an elderly couple next to us looked at my name and he said, Zahn, what is that? You're not from here. And I said, you'll love this. I said, yeah, I am. That's short for Vander Zahn. I'm Dutch. And he said, that can't be. And we got into a discussion and so forth. But, you know, it's that kind of attitude. Then let's go further north. North side of Ottawa County, south end of Muskegon County. I was on the ground 2 weeks and had a realtor in an office meeting say, when are you going to straighten out those realtors in Holland? There are attitudes that need discussing. Well, what exactly does that mean? Is that black and white? Is that Dutch, non-Dutch? Is that whatever? We need a conversation. And I just really think that our industry in particular, we have a very close of West Michigan. And that being said, you know, we have these discussions, but not nearly as much as we should. And I think we've got to have those discussions, particularly in this day and age. And it's uncomfortable to some people to do that. But one of the things that an individual said to me this morning, which I will not get into right now in the interest of time, would just make your skin crawl. And it happened right here in our backyard. And it's not pretty. So we got to address those things. They happen. They're real.
Right. So I have to interject because there are a lot of people that particularly in the Grand Haven area that have elevated the conversation. There are folks that are taking leadership positions in making sure that we're engaging folks from all walks of life and from all races. It's really important conversations that are going on here. But I would submit that I've lived in the Grand Haven area for 20 years, and it's been delightful to meet a lot of the new residents that are not from here, are different than we are not Dutch, are not, you know, it's not solely white folks that are moving to our community. We have a plethora of different ethnic folks in our community or that visit our community, because all of our surrounding communities are pretty darn diverse. So I think the conversations are occurring, and the Ottawa County is doing a great job with equity and diversity training. We have a lot of town hall meetings that are going on for discussions. and everybody's involved. And that's what's really great. And that's how change is going to occur nationwide, is the more people you get involved in the conversations, and the more folks that are comfortable having those conversations, it changes the environment in which you're in.
Absolutely. And Tim, I do want to get your feedback, because as we talk about 100+ openings, right? How we're kind of tying in the threads that Joy's talking about with diversity, equity, inclusion, and what Dale's talking about. How is your organization kind of looking at that lens in your position to hire?
Yeah, it's a key priority for us, and I would say a couple things. One, it's important. It's important for our community. It's important for us as an organization, not just because there's a large workforce in there, but it's the right thing to do. And really that's the important thing, because yes, as much as we all feel that, and we all feel that there's a good community, other people don't feel that welcomeness and that willingness. And what are we doing to make them feel that? And I think, so to answer the question, to say, hey, what should we be telling people? I think we should tell them that it's awareness, and companies know what's happening. So for instance, there's the Talent 2020 initiative, and there's the CEO and empowerment. We are part of that. SHAPE is part of that. We've recently created a diversity and inclusion board, where it's not only SHAPE internal employees, but we've included people from the community and from the other organizations to be able to impact our diversity and inclusion process on both those entry-level positions that we have a ton of openings on, but also in our higher level and leadership level roles. And I think to answer those questions is, what are we doing? What do we tell people? We tell people that we're trying to get better, because when we know we're not great at it. Are we good at it? I think we're good. And I think we want to get good. And I think that's the first step. But what do we do to get good? Is we're trying to get better at it, and we're working towards it. And I think companies are very, very engaged in doing that. And we have the right mindset behind it. I also think that we need to tell people there are people like them in these areas, because to the point, we're not all white Americans, white Dutch, white whatever. There are areas where those folks are here, where there are people like them, where they're going to see other people, because that is important. As much as we don't want to necessarily say it, they need to see and know that there are other people that they can relate to. So I think that the way that we share that information is important, but it's also making sure that they know that we got to get better.
One of the things I'd kind of like to wade in again, a number of years ago, we started a program called the Lakeshore Youth Leadership Program. And part of the reason that we started that program, we are so connected to Muskegon County and the southern part of Muskegon County. The workforce between Muskegon County and Northern Ottawa County is, I mean, all you have to do is stand by the bridge and you can see what's happening. But you know, we decided that really we needed to find a way to try and bridge the differences between the two communities. And we decided that the place to start with was the youth. Mm-hmm. So we started with students from Muskegon High School, Muskegon Middle School, Grand Haven High School, and Middle School, and put together a leadership program for them. And it has been one of the most fascinating programs that I have ever had an opportunity to be involved in, just because the kids sat down and figured out how to connect with each other, and really through the program, visiting each other's schools, doing projects in each other's community, they came to the conclusion that we really aren't that different. And it was kids from both communities that were not all white, from both communities on both sides of the bridge. And so every year we do this program, we make another ripple of change. And that's how we're all going to change things. It's not going to be one big fell swoop. It's about a process. It's about continuing to send a message out that we do welcome everyone, and we are a community that's a great place to live, and we value diversity. And we, just because we may look a little bit different, that doesn't mean that we don't value everyone's worth and the difference that they can make in our community.
Very well said, Joy. And thank you for sharing that story. I wasn't aware of that youth program, and I think that's fantastic. So thank you. And just a gentle reminder for the audience, we've got a little time left still. So if you have questions, just remember to put those into the Q&A section of our webinar. It's in the bottom of your screen. So the next question that I have is, you often hear, like, if you could go back in time, what would you tell your 10-year-old self, so that you can have that little nugget of truth when you get older? And so my question is really maybe not going back in time to tell your 10-year-old self, give a piece of advice, but if you could just go back a year, not knowing that like COVID was happening, is there a piece of advice you would give yourself or maybe your organization or your company that would be valuable to know if you could go back in time and share that? So let's switch it up a little bit. I'm going to have Susie go first, and then we'll let Tim go next.
Well, in thinking about this question, really, sitting in our new home, where we relocated to, and having 3 months to really think about what this store is going to look like, I was really designing it after what I knew in Connecticut and how that was all going to change, and what was I thinking of, and what were the things that would inspire an answer to this question. And I think we don't know what we don't know, and we also don't know what we're capable of until we're put in a situation like we're in right now with these very uncertain times, and especially in business. And I started to ask myself, what was my compass? What is my guide for going forward? And I just think I keep landing on a couple of things. And one of them is just to trust my instincts, really. And I didn't believe that I could do that. I've never been a store owner before the first store that I owned, and I was an owner for 6 years, and just recently sold that store. Actually, the closing was on 9/11, and now we're focused 100% on the Michigan store. But to just really recognize that within us, there is what we need, and sometimes it doesn't come to us all at once. So just trusting my instincts, and then just always doing the next right thing. And I think that that is something that's led me through my whole life, many times in places where I just have unusual questions about what to do next, is what's the next right thing? It's kind of like that elephant, one bite at a time. And that's probably the advice that I would give to my younger, first in business, the pre-COVID self. Yes.
That's great feedback. And I think oftentimes, our instincts absolutely help guide the way. We have it in us to, be able to power through these difficult times.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What about you, Tim?
Yeah, so I talked a little bit about it, but I would say some of the things, if I could look back and say, is make sure that we're more adaptive. But I would also say, to kind of elaborate on that, is I would like to have known and had better relationships and been able to rely on my business partners more before this. Going into this and after coming through this, we learned a lot from each other. We've all kind of picked each other's brains now that we're running through problems, and most of us are having similar problems, and most companies and people are having similar problems. I think we're all willing to help each other out. And sometimes I think we look at each other too much like competition, and that's really been a good opportunity for us is we've been able to both share what's been successful for us, but also gather what's been successful from other organizations. And I think that's a really good opportunity to engage other folks and build those relationships and continue to build those relationships.
Yeah, that co-opetition, and just knowing that, like, what's the community that I can lean on, a community of like-minded folks, or industry experts, or maybe it's just folks that have been through something like this who have great ideas on how to weather these type of storms, right?
For sure.
What about you, Dale? Because your industry kind of had some uniquenesses to it too. And what would you go back and tell yourself 6 months ago?
Well, when you become my age, you've been through several downturns. And the first one that I remember most profoundly was 1979, was called Black Saturday. The then usury ceiling was lifted. Interest rates that were capped went through the roof, and we thought the sky was falling in the real estate industry. Then you get into the 80s, there was a recession. Then you get more in recent years. About 10 years ago, we had a recession, and it affected us right here in West Michigan. And people thought, once again, the sky is falling, my business is over, I'm done. Now fast forward to 6 months ago, March of 2020. That was a time that I refer to it as a slowdown, not a shutdown. And some will argue that. Some will say, well, we were at stay at home. You know, it was a shutdown. No, it wasn't a shutdown. It was a slowdown because realtors had to become resilient. So my thought to people looking back, and what did I learn, is be resilient and know that to change is to survive. Somebody told me years ago, the only persons that like change are babies. And learned that that's not necessarily true. And to change is to survive. Now, somebody made a comment earlier, I think maybe it was Tim, that his business was doing actually better or doing really great during this time of a pandemic. You know, in the real estate industry, many of our realtor members have experienced that very thing. They wouldn't have believed it, but now they do. They were selling more properties that they never showed physically before. And others were saying, how do you ever sell a house if you can't show it? Well, you can show it. You just may not be able to open the door and walk through it with people. Transactions were being done. Closings were taking place remotely. Selling was being done virtually. It's a whole new thing. Whoever would have thought? But the real estate industry historically has gone through tremendous changes in the delivery of information. The most recent, of course, is technology. It's internet, it's Zoom, it's stuff like we're doing right now. It's a matter of adapting to those things. So my thought to looking back would be prepared for the unexpected. It's not the end of the world. History has proven it's not the end of the world. You can survive. And what's now happened, much like Tim's business, things are robust and percolating big time. I did some commercials in early May on the other side of the building from Joy at one of the local radio stations. And the whole gist of those commercials was how robust it has become. Like overnight, there were 60 days of, oh my God, what's going on? And then things got to really percolating. And when I tell you this, and some of your viewers may not believe it, but it's true, and it's based on fact, there is a significant shortage of inventory, and there are offers being put on properties, sometimes 30 to 40 offers on the same property at the same time. That's huge demand. People want West Michigan. They want to either move up, they want to come from another area. So change to survive, be resilient, look for ways to adapt to the new technologies that are out there.
Absolutely. I think you hit on a couple threads that we all probably experienced at one point or another, and that's how can you move forward with what you got, and is digital a means to be able to show houses virtually or sell clothing online, or like how can you be remote, as Tim had talked about. So it's interesting. Technology definitely has expanded into our homes. Zoom, I see people doing classes and workouts all on Zoom. So it really has shifted things. But I think at the heart of what you're saying, Dale, is just be creative. Just don't throw in the towel. Find a way.
Hollie, much like Joy said earlier, they've had to adapt as a chamber to the things that they always did, but now they couldn't do this year. The one that immediately comes to mind, because it would have been most recent, would have been Coast Guard Festival, right here in Grand Haven. Big deal from all over the country. People come to West Michigan. No Coast Guard Festival, no Tulip Time down in the Holland area, things up in Muskegon. So our association, much like Joy and the Chamber, delivery of programs and services to our members has changed. Our education, we got a classroom here, seats 48 people. Haven't had a live class in there since the middle of March. And we're wanting to do those things. Board meetings. Joy knows this. She's got a board of directors. How many people can you reasonably bring into the boardroom at the same time? And are you masked up? And are you 6 feet apart? And all of that kind of thing. Some people say, yeah, I want to come in. I'm not scared. Others say, the heck with it. So, how does Joy as the CEO and me as the CEO here deal with those things that we normally would do? We've kept our full staff in place. We have laid off nobody. They've worked harder and longer during the pandemic, believe it or not, than when they were here with their butt in a chair for 8 hours a day. That's just the way it is. And we kept everybody working, which I think is important for the economy. It was good for self-esteem. It was good for the region, and certainly was good for our members because we communicated with them regularly all the time. People don't want to feel abandoned, whether they're members of the chamber, they're members of West Michigan Lakeshore Association. They want to feel connected, and they want a warm and fuzzy. They want somebody to hold them up and deliver a positive message. One person, I'll end on this, said that Dale Zahn is just too positive all the time. Guilty as charged. I admit that, and I will do that. And I know our folks at the chamber do the same thing. You've got to put on that face. Otherwise, you're doomed.
Yeah, thank you. And keep doing that, Dale, because we do need it, you know, that positivity shines through. Joy, I want to make sure you have a quick, chance to add in. We've got about 1 more minute. If you want to kind of give us the advice that you would give yourself 6 months ago, what would that be?
Well, Dale really kind of covered the whole issue with technology. I think if I were to go back 6 months ago, I think I would have made sure that we were more prepared to be able to handle the platforms that are out there, the Zoom platforms and all of that sort of thing, because I think one of the most important things, and like the Board of Realtors, we kept everybody on staff. Everybody was working remotely. They were working very, very diligently. And our goal was to make sure that our members were informed about what kind of programs and services were out there for them. And I think that, but the other thing, I think I would have reminded myself that every day it was important to make sure that people know that we were going to give them grace. Mm-hmm. And that we were going to care about them, and that mindfulness and 5 deep breaths was always a really good thing to do whenever you were feeling stressed, because I think all of us have gone through those ups and downs in our jobs, but then everybody else has as well. So that would be kind of my, if I look back, I would have reinforced that whole piece, but been a lot more diligent about making sure that we all understood how to use Zoom and whatever other platforms were out there.
That's wonderful. And thank you so much, Joy. I think that's a great way to end our webinar today. I want to say thank you again to our panelists, Tim, Susie, Joy, Dale. You have been so wonderful to talk to you. I've learned a lot. I hope everyone on our webinar has learned a ton. Please come out and join us on the Lakeshore. We've got great parks, recs, businesses, and people, and we would love to have you. So thank you again, and I hope you all have a wonderful Friday and weekend.
Thank you, Holly. It's been nice to be a part of it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys. Bye.